So there's definitely a lot of value in being able to monitor, evaluate what you're doing, be able to communicate that value. Now, point number two, when you're defining performance indicators, this is something I think that's been talked about a lot this week, stakeholders, the different stakeholders. But I always like to say, what does success look like to you? So you are a hub manager. You work in the space, people walk in, have access to internet services and all these things, have a nice time. But when you go back home, how do you define success? What makes you wake up each morning and say, oh, look, today this happened and I'm happy about it. And I feel I'm successful. I feel the hub is successful. So it really starts off with what you yourself define as success, the founders or the board members, who sort of own the hub. Once you begin to define what success looks like to you, they can then move on to now looking at how success looks like for all the other players. Now, for internal staff as well, very, very key. I remember when we employed an accountant and he came in and he used to ask all the questions that we never want to be asked because we're so passionate about what we do, which is, if people earn so much money, if a startup begins to generate so much revenue, that is success. Because it's looking at the numbers. For you, you may look at, if people are in the space and they're having a good time, that is success. So it's important that even among staff members to be able to define that success with different staff members. So let's say a communications person, M&D person, or let's say an accountant. Everyone sees success differently, and it's important as a team to be able to define or be at least get on the same page as to what success looks like. Startups as well. What does success look like to them? Is it raising a certain amount of funding, or being able to employ more people, or being able to move out of the hub, open a new office outside the hub? Maybe that is success to them. How do you define growth for all these parties? External parties as well, very important. The sponsors, your ecosystem players, your government, and all those guys, they define success differently. It's important that you map all that. There's lots of rich literature. Aspen and Kaufman Foundation have lots of literature on ecosystems, how to build ecosystems, and all these different players, and what they would expect. But keep it local. What does your government want? What do your sponsors in your space want? What do your startups, what your staff want? And when we look at incubators, really, when you put all these things together, some of these may resonate with you, some of these may not. But when you look at the 7 points, you may be able to pick up one or two based on the maturity of the ecosystem or maturity of the hub. When you look at the programs, when we begin to define what we are going to track, how many applicants, how many actually are participating in the programs or have qualified to get into your hub. They would be members, they would be people going through your accelerator programs or incubator, and how many are graduating. So it's not one metric is more important than the other in this case, because if you look at the best startups, startup incubators across the world, they have this nice metric to say we only accept 1% of applicants. So they place value on the number of the demand. Okay, it's important. But also when you talk about graduates, you say, look, there are 10 or 15 graduates of our program out of maybe 10,000 applicants. So it's important that you're able to track the whole process from start to finish. Gender is a big thing as well. Talk about women entrepreneurship and how women are disadvantaged and all those things. Age, it's important. Some of you may only be focusing on youth, but what if a person who's 50 years old walks in? How do we track how our programs are being perceived by the rest of the world? Even simple things for us, like if you put a picture advertising the program with women on it, it's easier to attract women. So a lot of things then begin to define all these indicators. Number of mentors as well in the programs, that's a very, very key metric that you could track over time. The more mentors, basically, the more expertise is available in the program, which could translate into better quality of a program. Increased revenue, this is a very straightforward metric for incubators. Once you work with your startups, you must be able to track if your intervention, your program has helped the startup to have more revenue. And also number 3, are they getting more investment or funds, are raising more funds because of your intervention? So that's a very important element as well. Jobs created, are they creating jobs? So when startups get into your programs, are they creating jobs? Which is a very straightforward thing, especially across Africa, where different stakeholders are looking to create jobs for youth. For more social innovation hubs, impact in the community, you may be tracking, are the people's livelihoods, are they improving? Have they got better access to education, better access to health? Are they living longer because of the impact of your startups, which are social innovation startups, I guess. Another key metric which is more standard is, so if people come in with ideas, how do we know that they actually are businesses? And in this case, it means that you must track if someone came in with an idea but actually went to a government agency and registered the business. That means they formalized the business. So you're tracking that as well. In terms of reach, when you look at all these factors, all these aspects, so whether it's in social media, you have a mailing list, you have a number of events, people attending the events, the speaking engagements, conferences attended, and awards. All these things, in a way, show your reach, your impact, your potential to reach other platforms, I guess, or areas where initially maybe you may not have had, but over the years, that reach could be very helpful when convincing corporates and all these other stakeholders that you're actually growing. You may not be growing physically, but you are growing in terms of influence. And those are things that you can easily track. So when you look at the next bit, which is more internal, one side, you're tracking what's happening with your startups and your startup programs. But one big performance indicator internally, many of you may have been reading about what's happening across, especially in the tech scene across the world, especially in the US, around gender and discrimination and all those things. So it's one metric you can show that your hubs are embracing the gender equality, so to say, and equity. So it's good to track how many women and men are employed by the organization. But one key metric which everyone likes to talk about, revenue streams. So I can tell you, for example, now that Bongo Hive has 44% revenue that we generate ourselves, and 56% is coming from grants. That's a very important metric that you must be able to track, an indicator. Something it indicates whether you are going towards self-sustainability or not. But if you do not track that, yeah, you may close shop. Partnerships and sponsors, the more partners, basically, the more that you are leveraging on your brand, the more partners are adding value to your programs. It can only be a good thing that you have more partners over time, so you're able to track and show that you are actually gaining more partners.